What is your favorite romantic comedy of all time? Let me guess, is it Pretty Woman? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, every other person's favorite rom-com is Pretty Woman. And it is for a good reason. Like, we all know that 1990s rom-coms are superior in every aspect, and Pretty Woman is arguably the best one among them all. It is iconic, it is unforgettable, and it is absolutely heartwarming. So it shouldn't come as a surprise that a Pretty Woman sequel is in the works 35 years later. And yes, this time, we are approaching this unique story from a completely different angle. So, let's talk about it. Here is the thing. Netflix is taking the reins on a Pretty Woman sequel, set to come out at the end of 2025. But let me break your hearts already and reveal that instead of bringing back the original cast, the story will follow new characters, played by Emma Roberts and Tom Hardy. Yes, you heard it right. We won't get Julia Roberts and Richard Gere this time around. It's a bold move, I know, especially considering how much Pretty Woman means to me and so many others. And yes, I have serious doubts on how would Vivian and Edward's story be like without Julia and Richard in presence. After all, they were the ones that made this movie iconic. And they are the main reason why are we still talking about this movie after all these years, demanding a sequel. If you are a Gen Z or somehow missed out on the Pretty Woman craze back in the day, let me give you the scoop. Pretty Woman wasn't just a hit in 1990, it became part of pop culture history. I mean, from Vivian's red dress to Edward's grand romantic gesture, this movie was everywhere. And I know for sure that I'm not the only one who fell in love with that story. Plus, feel free to disagree with me in the comments, but to me, it's not just nostalgia. I think we should all agree on the fact that romantic comedies today don't quite capture the same magic. It is as simple as that. There's something about the charm, the humor, and yes, the slightly problematic but undeniably captivating dynamic of Pretty Woman that still resonates with a lot of us. And clearly, Netflix wants to capitalize on this charm rather than writing an original modern story that will have a similar essence. Because deep down, they all know that even if they stop being lazy and work on this, the modern love is basically non-existent at this point. That being said, if I'm being honest, it's hard to imagine a Pretty Woman movie without Julia and Richard. And apparently, they feel the same way. Julia has made it clear that she has no interest in stepping back into Vivian's high heels. She said, "I don't think I could." And Richard Gere was even more direct when he was asked about the sequel. He said, "I will never do Pretty Woman 2. Well, I totally respect their decision to not be included in the movie. After all, they already made a perfect movie, so why would they risk the legacy of the original one by coming up with a sequel, right? It's totally understandable. So, without our iconic duo, how will the new sequel move forward? Well, the fact that Emma Roberts, who is Julia's niece in real life, is starring in it adds an interesting layer to the story for sure. It makes me think that this sequel will try to tie back to the original in a way that still feels meaningful. Perhaps Emma will play Julia's niece in the movie as well, and perhaps she will be the one who falls for an S-worker. So, in a way, we will watch a reversed version of Pretty Woman. I don't know about you guys, I think that would be a pretty one idea. And perhaps, this time, the story might have a less than perfect, more bittersweet ending. A lot of people don't know this, but Pretty Woman was never meant to have that fairy tale ending. In its original version, when it was still called 3000, Edward was going to throw Vivian out and leave her with exactly what he paid her. Needless to say, that would have been a much darker, more cynical take on their relationship. But then, the movie evolved into something completely different. It became a Cinderella story, basically. And yet, it is never too late to revisit the original idea. On one hand, I can't deny that I'm curious about the sequel. On the other, I know that sequels to beloved classics don't always work. Just look at what happened with Grease 2 or the Dirty Dancing sequel. Both tried to recapture the magic of the originals and fell flat. And with Pretty Woman, I don't want to see it turned into just another nostalgic cash grab. But let me know what you think. For more weekly updates on upcoming movies, make sure to like and follow. Meanwhile, the video on the screen might also interest you.